It's pretty well documented that Sun Soul is the weakest combination of class and subclass in the game, and I'm going to try and optimize it to the best of my ability. Now, my goal isn't to put it into the realm of S tier. My goal is to get a build that is playable at most tables. Now, one of the rules here is I can't subclass any more than 3 levels into another class. I think it's really silly to say this is a Sun Soul build when I take 3 levels of Sun Soul and 17 elsewhere. So that is one of the stipulations I'm putting onto this build. Now, we're going to do our build around the Radiant Sunbolt feature. This feature basically drops our offensive power to increase our defensive power by giving us a range. Range combined with Monk's mobility is a pretty strong defense because we can be where we're at. We can go get into cover, run out, hit some people. It really enables a hit and run. And the Sun Soul actually does this quite well. They do it the most defensively. However, they do sacrifice quite a bit of offense to make that happen. So increasing our offense is going to be a very important part of this build. Now, for my other hit and runners, we went Hexblood first. You could. However, with the Sun Soul specifically, it's very important that you can create range. So I think a flight-based character can really shine with the Sun Soul. Now, once I looked at all the flight races, I decided Fairy was the one for me. The reason why is that we have Fairy Fire, which can help us as a fight-winning spell, but it also gives us Enlarge/Reduce, so it gives us other options outside of what we're normally doing. But the main reason we are here is definitely for our flight. Now, how are we getting Hex? Well, we're going to get it at 4th level. We're going to take Fey Touch. We're going to round out our Wisdom. So as far as our stats go, Dex is going to be the most important. Wisdom is 2nd. Constitution is 3rd, but we want our Wisdom to be odd so that when we get Fey Touch, we can actually go ahead and round that out, as well as get Misty Step and the all-important Hex. Then we're going to need to take a 1st level in one of our spellcasters, either Druid or Cleric. The reason why is we want to get more hexes. It gives us 2 more hexes per day, and the benefits of going a 1st level dip into either of those. Now, usually we would do a Peace Domain Cleric, and that's because Peace Domain Cleric helps us with our concentration problem. But because we're more of a defensive build, we have less of a concentration problem than our other hit and run monks. And so I wanted to focus more on the offense side of things, and that's where War Cleric comes in. War Cleric is going to allow us to get a couple more bonus action attacks per day. Now, that's a resource pool that we have outside of key points. So this is going to be a build that's all about balancing our resources, and we really only want to use those War Domain attacks after we've expended all of our key points, but we still need to keep our damage output as high as possible. It's just nice to have that extra second wind of damage capability. Our main weapon is going to be a bow. We're going to use it over our Sunstrike almost always, unless we're spending a key point to do the Sunburst Flurry of Blows attack. And we should only be doing that attack if Hex is up. It's just not worth it unless we are getting those extra potential 2d6 of damage. So our resource management looks like this. We take a look at the fight and we say, do we need high damage output? The answer is no, don't cast Hex, save it. The answer is yes, we're going to need high damage output, it's time to cast Hex. The next pool of resources we want to start expending is our key points. As much damage as we can possibly produce using those Flurry of Blows attacks. We want to end the fight as quick as possible. If we expend all of those, then we can move into our War Domain bonus action attacks, where we can now do 2 archery attacks followed by a 3rd archery attack with Hex still up. And that damage strategy is going to be our strategy until we hit Monk 11 or our level 12. But before then, a couple things happen. First is you got to take note that we have a flying speed combined with high Monk movement speed combined with Misty Step. We have great mobility. We're mostly going to be using that defensively, but there are times when we can switch it up. We can swoop in, get in real close, and start throwing in attacks. So having something like a staff that you can go in there and get into melee is going to be pretty important, because sometimes you want to go for broke with a big stunning strike. So we have the option to change it up and go in there for those stunning strikes and to change our playstyle from this damage dealer to a potential monk controller. Now that's high risk, high reward, because our stuns are nothing special. We might be able to set up a Bane beforehand, but they're not our bread and butter. Now what changes once we hit 12th level and we get our Sunburst? We can fly 100 feet in the air and still drop attacks down on people, so we can be really, really safe. And we have spammable AoE, which is really rare in the game. So now we have an option for mobs where we can start doing a bunch of burst damage from far away. Now it's gonna be really inconsistent damage, and I wouldn't be using key points to increase that damage unless we're hitting a significant amount of enemies. I'm talking 5 or more, maybe 4 or more if I'm feeling generous, because some of them are gonna save and do no damage, so you really need to be getting a lot out of those key points. Spend them wisely. But there's every chance in the world that they're not gonna have an option to attack you at 150 feet, and you can just fly above them and rain these sunbursts down on them until they're dead. So it can be kind of like a blue dragon who's just patient and just whittles you down from a range you can't really deal with. And moving into our later levels, nothing really changes. We have a pretty powerful defensive option with Empty Body, but our Capstone feature and our 6th level feature we can basically ignore. It doesn't change our playstyle at all. My question to you guys is, do you feel like I did what I set out to accomplish? Do a build that would be viable at most tables? And do you think we can make this build better? If so, let me know in the comments down below. If you're interested in supporting the channel and gaining some benefits out of it, we now have a Patreon, so feel free to check that out. But other than that, guys, hope you have yourselves an amazing day. We love you lots, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.